I suppose we need to say, let's get down to business. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the West Ham Network. This is an Anton Reacts. And Anton reacts to your comments. A show that we're doing once a week, a couple of times a week, depending on the comments that are coming through to us, discussing some of the topics that we've discussed in the video and just bringing your comments to the table and giving you our opinion on the back of it. So without further ado, there's no point in me sitting here blurbing on. Let me get straight to it. The first comment for me to dissect is from El Dudarino 7767. He says, there's no way he's getting a new contract. If this is true, the only explanation is that the board and Moyes have agreed to spin that this contract won't be renewed. Of course, for that to work, he has to start putting points on the board so he can survive until the end of the season. So, first and foremost, he has started putting points on the board. He did it against Brentford. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to continue, but he's started that process. However, do I think there's a contract on offer? I do. Is there caveats to it? Yes. Is that possibly why David Moyes is sitting back? Yes. Why? Because it simply must mean that there's big changes coming at West Ham. So if Moyes is going to stick around, he's going to have to follow the new rules, the new stipulations, i.e. he will not be the manager, he will be the coach. And do you know what? Maybe it's a way of them getting Moyes out. Maybe it's a way of them not agreeing to. Maybe it's their way of respecting him. It's just the one way we know the board act, and they should have really probably dealt with the Moyes situation a lot better than they have. I don't know what is on the table, but either way, I do think something is there for him. And they're maybe hoping he doesn't sign it, or maybe they are hoping he signs it and agrees to the new rules and regulations. Again, all speculation based upon Russ's show from the information we have received. However, we will have to wait and see. So thank you very much for your comment as per usual. The next one for me to dissect is from Grelt. She says, I reckon Moyes sounded like a decision has been made. There was finally to the way he said what he said. I reckon he's been told we're letting you go in June, but let you control the narrative. That allows him to announce that he's decided against signing a new contract and allows him to leave with some dignity, which he should be afforded. I doubt he went rogue here, but if he did, I think he's aware he's done. I don't know if it's as simple as that. To be honest with you, the simple thing is, I don't think anybody knows really what is on the table. I mean, sometimes it's very rare you hear from the horse's mouth, but we've heard from the horse's mouth, and I'd be really surprised if there's absolutely no truth in what David Moyes has said. I'd be shocked if I'm being really honest with you. Really shocked. I think that you don't put yourself in a situation like that to then turn around and say there is no offer on the table. So we will have to wait and see what comes of this. You know, if he keeps putting the odd points here, there, and everywhere, and keeps West Ham within distance of Europe and tries to travel us through the Europa League, who knows what will happen next. But thank you very much for your comment. And as you can probably tell, this session is going to be designed around David Moyes. Brendan Together says, if you get a contract, you sign it. Why would you not and then leave with nothing as opposed to being sacked and receiving a payoff, Mischief? Now, there's a part of this I totally agree with. I don't understand West Ham's mindset in allowing the situation to drag on, because if you look at the way Bayern Munich, yes, okay, we're talking about Bayern Munich, low reputable history throughout European football, throughout the German leagues. The situation is that West Ham do not deal with situations professionally. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was a contract on the table. I wouldn't be surprised if West Ham are willing to sit tight until the end of the season. I'm not surprised they don't communicate with the fan base or the media and let us actually know what's happening. Why? Because it's West Ham. Why? Because it's David Sullivan. It's simple. That's the situation. So that's where I put that for you. So thank you again very much for your comment. Next one coming up is from GPNH1UW, but we all know him as GP. He says, fans forget that in board's eyes, David is a decent man. Came back twice, Europe 3 seasons running, and a cup. Maybe Sully said there is a contract, £100 million transfer budget for next season, but you need to get us in Europe for 24-25. So it could be the case of results and whether Moyes feels he can go further with the team, hence why he will decide at the end of the season. I think there's so many different ways we can look at this, GP. So many different ways. It could be that he's not going to be the manager, he's going to be the coach, and if he does stay, he won't have a say in transfer dealings, which would be the first time in his career that he has no say in transfer dealings. And I don't think Moyes would like that. I really don't think Moyes would like that. I think Moyes doesn't mind it to a certain extent as long as he gets some decisions. Calvin Phillips of the worlds, the JWPs of the world. However, if he's got no full control over that and there's other caveats in the contract, then who knows? However, the one thing you can't argue against is European football. He gets his European football for 4 years in a row if he does it. And could you imagine he goes ahead and wins the fucking Europa League? Holy shit. Like, if he does it, then nobody can argue against it. It's simply, you cannot do that. But I am talking about ifs, muts, buts, or maybes. And that is something, again, we will have to wait and see. The next comment is from user DN7MJ9US5s. As long as Sullivan's in charge, there is no plan. And even if there was one, he would sabotage it. I completely concur with you. While he is always at the club, I do have major concerns about the lack of direction. I think he's a consolidator and he's a businessman first and foremost. He doesn't care about the fans. And I'm not saying he will get us relegated or anything like that, but I just think he has got one focus in his mind and he thinks he is the big ticket. And that's the frustrating side of it. So yeah, completely agree with you on that one. The next comment here is from George Kerr 2487. It says, Irish Tommy is the best host on the West Ham network. And do you know what, George Kerr? I completely concur with you. I think Irish Tommy is fantastic, a fellow Irishman and a great guy, and he is brilliant show. So if you haven't checked it out already, go and check out the Late Show every single Friday, 10 o'clock. And big man Irish Tommy is there giving you his West Ham goings on of the week. Very good content. So very appreciated, George, for bringing your attention to our good old friend Irish Tommy. A few more comments to go through. Peter Judge talking about the Brighton way works for them. Can't deny it, but I like the idea of having a club hero, someone you can sing about and get their name on your kids' shirts without them leaving in a year or two. In my opinion, it's quite a defeatist way to do things. This is not saying they don't play good football and are not doing a good job. Oh, and Anton, please sort your frames out. Well, first and foremost, the frames are sorted, hopefully. Let's see how long that lasts for. And this is a retaliation to the video I did about me saying I had a theory about maybe West Ham have a plan. I'm not saying they do, just maybe they have a bigger plan. And the bigger plan could be to follow the Brighton structure. So many fans have called for West Ham to try and follow that similar structure. And I've done a video where I looked at some of the details behind what Brighton do. They bring in a lot of players from teams who don't play within the top 5 European leagues around the world. They bring them in, they sell them on for profits, and they do tend to find gems. And in those gems, they can go on to make very good Premier League careers and help progress the club of Brighton. And they do this for all spending low fees on players. And I am concerned that if West Ham don't progress, we'll keep losing our best players like the Kuduses, the Paquetas, etc. But in actual fact, clubs like Brighton, their model allows for them to lose those players because they're then looking at the next conveyor belt of players coming through and progress them into the club. You've just got to look at the history of players they've brought in and sold and how much they've sold them for to make it work, and the next player coming off the conveyor belt that they do. But they do turn over a lot of players. And I just wonder if that's a model that West Ham do or do not want to do. But a lot of people do call for West Ham to try and copy that similar model, and a lot of credit has got to go to David Weir, who is at the club there, former Everton player, who is the director or technical director at Brighton. Grouch says, it's nice theory, Anton, but I think you may be grasping at straws. That our chairman has spent so much time in the last few months throwing our director of football manager under the bus, which suggests our plan is to keep the TV remote control away from the toddler in charge. And oops, sometimes he finds it. Undoubtedly, there is a plan somewhere in an email in a junk box, but we're not using one. And on the pitch, our tactical plan is Sabutio protocol. We can only move one player at a time. And when one of our older game pieces breaks, we use super glue to fix them. Only way we use this cheap, very slow dry, never really hardings brand. It's a good way to describe West Ham as a whole. But yeah, you know, a lot of people are starting to feel like the chairman is the way, you know, he's ran the club from the moment he's came into the club, the deceit, the lies over the past, etc. And the way that things are managed, and, you know, really struggling to take away even, I don't want to bring it up, but I'm going to bring it up, as the mannerisms and how he dealt with, like, say, the Declan Rice saga the day after we win the cup. I've been talking about it on radio about him leaving the club. Like, come on, David, read the room, man. Read the room. but he certainly does not do it. Last but not least, I'm going to give you one more comment before I head. Anton, I blame Moyes. This is from Audi Elias, TT2601. Anton, I blame Moyes more than Sullivan because he does give funds to Moyes. Moyes does not want young talent because very, very few would be able to play or stumble through the kick and then rush football. Moyes coaches. Moyes would love to purchase 10 players to defend and one to attack. Anton, Moyes is the problem. No matter which way one slices it, Moyes needs to get the F out. And there's parts I agree with and parts I disagree with. No, this rhetoric about David Moyes receiving £500 million. He has received the funds that we're all talking about. There's no questions about it. But no matter what football manager was in charge at West Ham, they would have received the same amount of money. It's relative to the amount of fans we have that go through the door, for the amount of income that we receive. And we then base that upon other clubs in the Premier League, and we see the valuation of what they bring in and what they spend. West Ham are not special. West Ham are sitting in about 8th place in our expenditure, and we're currently in 8th place in the Premier League. So if you are looking at it for a like-for-like basis of money, again, I'm repeating myself, then we are where we should be. But my concern is we've got better players than where we should be. And I feel like if we had a stronger squad, if we invested more money into other areas of the team, we would be pushing again at the right end of the table. We are at the right end of the table, but pushing higher than what we are. And yeah, there are decisions, massive decisions that fall on David Moyes in terms of tactical decisions, games against Bournemouth, Nottingham Forest, Sheffield United, just to name a few, where we've dropped points, and I feel like, you know what, we could be 6 to 8 to 9 points further off, better further off than what we are right now because of the way we went in at the game. And if we'd have went into the other games that I've just spoken about, like we did against Brentford, like we did against Arsenal in the Carabao Cup, things would be dramatically different. But we sometimes just consolidate, sit back, and that's my concern for the Everton game coming up. But I don't want to get ahead of myself in time for that game as well. But hopefully we've seen we're capable of doing something on the day. Fingers crossed we can be dynamic, aggressive, up for it, va-va-voom, you name it, for the game against Everton. Anyway, join Holly for the Hammers headlines later on. And tonight we've got a double whammy for you. We've got the wrap-up from Jamie. Make sure you do join Jamie as he discusses the Brentford game, the look forward to Everton, and potential Hammer of the Year recommendation for the early days of the season so far. Then we'll join in Budgie and Kieran for the old school Hammers as they discuss, was it the manager's masterclass or was it the players' decision to play the way they did? Good topics coming for you tonight, so make sure you join everyone. If you're new around here, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, leave a comment if you've enjoyed this type of show. And of course, if you're interested in becoming a channel member, click on that option as well. Everybody, take it easy. Come on, your hands.